Welcome to The Blueprint, where science meets spirituality meets self-love. The Blueprint is a journey of self-discovery intended to reconnect you to yourself and remind you that all the answers you seek, you hold within. I'm Marley Finnegan, creator of The Blueprint, a self-exploration based in unique perspectives and conversations around energy, empathy, and the body, mind, and soul. We hope this work inspires healing within our inner landscapes, which in turn reconnects us to healing our communities and Mother Earth. Join us for this exploration as we remember, recognize, and recall the myriad ways you can return to you. Welcome to The Blueprint. This is part 6. Embodiment is elemental. What does embodiment even mean? Quite simply, what embodiment means to me is when your soul is largely at the helm of your lived experience by way of intentional soul collaboration with your body, heart, and mind. Our souls are in conscious collaboration with our bodies and minds. Our minds are not running the show, but that is what Western beliefs tend to prioritize, because unrest with the parts of ourselves, including our minds, is what keeps people purchasing things. I once wrote a TED Talk titled, "Overconsumption is a Crisis of Self-Clarity." And since I never made it to the TED stage, I'll share it for you here. During the pandemic, I lived many lives. The evolutions I experienced brought me to my knees. And along with tears of absolute joy, I swear to you that there were nights in which I could feel my heart break wide open. Poetry flowed out of me. Giant canvases were covered in big blue streaks of emotion. Meditation was my anchor, my mirror, my reflector, showing me all the things I never had a moment to consider prior to the screeching halt of a global pandemic. I had been on the business side of large-scale events my entire career. If there's one thing that event professionals know how to do, it's how to have a great time. And I can get down with the best of them. The fun was everywhere and it was constant. The problem is, with that pace and all of that constant stimuli, I had lost touch of just who I was, that deep inner voice and knowing, that soul level me. From listening to incredibly enlightening podcasts to connecting with friends who hold space without judgment, I started to scratch the surface of what I had known all along to be true. The long forgotten soul level me was still there, patiently waiting to step forward. After incorporating daily meditations, which was a goal of mine for years, journaling and sitting with the discomfort of looking at my traumas, my truths, beauty, and shortcomings, I broke open. I cried for what seemed like days as I released so many years of what either I or society had put on me. I began to see things with so much clarity, it surprised me. Somewhere during this transformation, I had a vision that my then 1-year-old son came to me at 18 years old, angrily asking me, "Why didn't you do something?" I was clear on what that visualization meant. I had to do something, and something drastic. No longer could I unsee the dire impending reality of our beautiful planet and subsequent anger of our children. The learning started. Composting came first. Then I committed to not buying any new clothes for 6 months, which stretched to a year and now 4 years. Recycling and reuse were already a given, but ordering online had to stop. The way I saw deliveries was different. The way I saw takeout was new. And finally, I took the leap to become a vegetarian for environmental reasons, which came to me in a meditation. I'm still constantly working on how to eliminate single-use plastic and a plethora of other things. And I don't do all these things perfectly. I joined Remake, an organization committed to leading campaigns for living wages, gender and climate justice, and long-term systemic change at a policy level. I trained with Al Gore's Climate Reality Leadership Corps and wrote 2 business plans for environmentally disruptive events companies, which focus on sustainability in the multi-billion-dollar world of conferences and events. I've taken over 200 hours worth of sustainability related certification, including education on degrowth and regenerative systems thinking. As I've ventured on this journey of personal environmental vigilance and reflection, something really interesting has happened. I've no longer felt attachment, or really anything at all, for the clothes that the fashion industry constantly attempted to inundate me with. Did you know that there are 52 seasons a year in fashion marketing? They are largely aimed at making persons feel invalidated without this week's color, pleat, or ruffle. Through Remake, I learned an endless amount about the abuses of fashion, unfair labor practices, and how hundreds of thousands of pounds of donated clothing end up polluting the shores of Ghana and other African countries. Eventually, 9 months into buying nothing new, I looked around my closet and saw things with a new perspective. I appreciated my clothes. I didn't care if something was out of style. It was my style, and ultimately, confidence is what is always in fashion. I finally could get really clear on what I love to wear and how best to utilize these garments in unique ways to keep things fresh and interesting. Also, I embraced the idea of repeating outfits proudly. I saw my own signature styles and looks emerging. My personal style and brand, if you will, evolved with my environmental prowess and my clarity of mind. Finally, it hit me. Consumerism is simply a crisis of self-clarity. Deep down, we haven't forgotten who we are. We never forget. We just can't always hear that inner voice above the noise. In fact, there's nothing you can buy to satiate any feeling of need, emptiness, or not enoughness. Today's technology is trained to track our desires, insecurities, and shortcomings to best manipulate your experience until you buy, buy, buy. Not to mention, it's constantly doing everything it can to take more and more of your most valuable asset yet, your time. The missing information is that you, that deep down beautiful you, are already full, whole enough. It's the outside influences that have simply stated otherwise. Today, what is your truth? If we're talking clothing, what's your style? Who are you? What do you represent? Can you name the top 3 things that you're passionate about? Things that you can purchase shouldn't top the list. As I have further deployed down the road of self-actualization, in tandem with my refusal to engage in marketers' desired consumerist mindset, I recognize the tactics employed to subliminally criticize the way we look, dress, eat, and feel. This is largely and unfairly focused on women, and young women are not outside of the target. We have long been conditioned to be in a low-key state of scarcity, needing material things to satiate our need for so-called acceptance, belonging, and the most coveted of all, love. My hope with this is to spark a remembrance within. No one can love you like you can. No Amazon delivery can fill your emotional cup. Deep soul level self-clarity defies all the limiting beliefs which have been put on us by society, and it implores us to remember that you cannot be defined by anything or anyone but you. This hope is twofold. With more people thinking with a conscious consumer mindset and buying less, informed by their own self-clarity, with any luck, my child will come to me at 18, proud of the work that I've done. Thank you. Ooh, I didn't know that was going to be so emotional. Okay. So I wrote that TED Talk back in 2020, and it really still rings true for me today. As I've mentioned ad nauseum, when we think about everything we've ever purchased, which was advertised to us to make our bodies look better, our faces look better, our stop aging, your body's too thin, it's too big. These attacks on our bodies are in service to separation from ourselves by way of waging this war on our bodies. It keeps us separate. They are in service to capitalism and the market, not in service to us or really human life. Our rate of consumption is the definition of unsustainable, and it is also a lower vibrational energy as well. It's not going to ever fill your soul. This intentional division from our mind and our body and our spirit it's just that. It's a perception. It is not real. It's an intentional disconnect from nature, from spirit, from God, and from oneness, because essentially, back many, many years ago, I used to ask my parents to drop me off at church. I had this really big fear of disconnection from God. When I was a kid, I remember seeing the movie Stigmata, and it made me think further about the Bible and about Jesus and about all these different disciples and all these men that wrote all these things in the book when Jesus was also alive at that time, and Mary Magdalene, and of course no women's voices were in the book, but also where was Jesus's voice? And I remember hearing or reading that Jesus essentially said, you can worship on a rock, you can worship on a tree, you can worship anywhere, but also like worship in nature. And I gathered in my own mind or by way of reading, and this was like when I was in ninth grade, that the reason why Jesus's portion wasn't in the Bible was because the fear imposed by many religions is a business. And when you don't go to church and you don't put money into the bowl, when you know that your religion is within and that your soul and your oneness with all things, including ascended masters like Jesus, Mary Magdalene, when you are connected to those beings, you can build community anywhere. And you can also build that community within yourself. So this intentional disconnection from our parts is just that. And I want to talk more about the heart. Heart led everything, seeing with the heart, feeling with the heart, being with the heart is the way of the new earth. And the vibrations of the heart emit electromagnetic currents that circulate not only within us, but within the collective consciousness of humanity. Our hearts and the unfolding of our hearts in our thoughts, feelings, and spiritual and emotional well-being, it magnifies the feelings of things like compassion, gratitude, appreciation, wonderment, love are all vibrations which benefit our bodies, and they aid in benefiting others who might suffer or operate in other frequencies. We can help raise the frequency through the vibrations of our heart and all other energies that we generate through our emotions, our thoughts, and our words even. Like physical workouts, meditation, and emotional and psychological workouts can help us to build our spiritual stamina. Even if you can only take a few minutes a day to focus on heart-focused activity, focus on your heart in meditation or journaling or gratitude practices. These things add over time, and they culminate an overall wellness within that is unspeakable. One of my personal favorite practices is I listen to a meditation every night when I'm going to sleep, during sleep state. That to me is when your subconscious is the most malleable. And I have seen incredible changes within myself. The heart has also a heart aura. We've talked about the heart mind, and we've talked about the truth in heart-led intentions. Heart-led leadership is something that I'm very passionate about, and I have a reading, I believe, I think it's in the final integration that I'm going to do a reading on. There's also a huge importance, shifting gears, of reclaiming our bodily pleasure, reclaiming our sexuality, our sensuality, reclaiming self-pleasure, and abandoning shame around these actions. Actually, as I was writing the blueprint and researching, I found actually Kristen align me with something called the erotic blueprint. And it's essentially what I would call the love languages of pleasure preferences. And it's highly based in spirituality, and it's highly based in the concept that our sexual creative energy is a very powerful force that can be used really beautifully and positively. And ultimately, it should be, I kind of get the message that we are here to experience all things as humans in these bodies, including all of our emotions, including the depths of heartbreak and sadness, including sexual pleasure of all different kinds and bodily pleasure. Like, our bodies are ancient earth, they are gifts from Mother Earth, and they are meant to be utilized for the highest good, for pleasure, for our own lived experience. So it's important to unpack your mental relationship to pleasure, including any perceived limitations or shame. Understanding how somatic healing and other healing modalities intersect with our embodiment is important because, as mentioned many times, what we wish to avoid mentally is often what our body is in need of. So this is important to understand, that often our mind is trying to create neural pathways away from pain, but this energy can still be within our body. So our body itself is what needs to rid itself of this energy. Okay. So that, when I say it like that, it does perceive separation, but they're working to different ends, right? So this is where our subconscious mind is trying to protect our peace, wanting to avoid the discomfort of feelings, grief, and trauma. But ultimately, our bodies want to be rid of those things. Somatic healing can promote body awareness and release patterns of tension around different stuck energies within. Somatic healing can lead to beautiful things like reduced pain, enhanced mobility, improved posture, also deep emotional release. It's proven to be effective for post-traumatic stress and trauma. I always kind of say, like, breath work to me is something that I try to run from, but every time I do it, I have these beautiful healing moments and epiphanies and connections to oneness. So here are some questions for you. What does the term embodiment mean to you? How do you currently practice embodiment? What comes to mind when you hear the term self-pleasure in the context of sexuality? Identify these feelings and emotions. Are there any practices that you currently have which make you feel connected to and in your body? So we're going to do a quick guided live processing. So please close your eyes. Where within your body does your soul live? Go there. Bring light there. Connect your heart there. Where does love live? Think of the person you love the most in life. What does that love feel like within your body? What parts of your body do you love the most? What parts need and deserve more love? How can you give yourself the love that you need psychically and physically? Through your thoughts, through your words, through your feelings, and through your actions. So I believe that the earth is ancient, divine, feminine energy. It is a counterpart. It is different from the masculine structures that have long dominated our organized religions and industrialized systems of capitalism. Mother Earth is spirit. It's well beyond a belief system. The divine feminine can be used at this time as a spiritual balancing of our perspectives to both right relationship to our bodies and to Mother Earth. Mother Earth symbolizes femininity, growth, nurturing, groundedness, and new life. She's a symbol of the most gentle power and wisdom, but also can be fierce, and a reminder of how we should approach our relationship to our bodies, ourselves, our fellow humans, and all living things. Our treatment of our bodies is a reflection of our treatment of Mother Earth. Death also has a role in embodiment. When I say the word death, what does it spark within you? All ancient civilizations that have been studied believed in reincarnation, and most definitely had a strong connection to the world of spirit, including often a fear of spiritual retaliation for various actions or a lack of actions. So an example would include sacrifice. In Tyson Yunkaporta's book, Sand Talk, he postures that our massive movement away from indigenous wisdom and our belief in reincarnation, moving away from that, has projected a collective fear of death, which is projecting a linear existence onto Earth, resulting in the Earth experiencing death. With much of humanity statistically fearing death and currently disconnected from spiritual oneness, when we think of the concept of quantum theory or hive consciousness or collective consciousness, this is a pretty wild theory. Reincarnation, past lives. One summer, I spent an entire summer, anybody and everybody that I could talk to past lives about. I was at weddings for hours in people's ears about past lives. The concept of lives and multiple lives and the way that it's been presented to me, the way that I've read about in many books, is really that we choose our bodies and we choose our lives and we choose our journey. So with that in mind, can we see our bodies with awe? Can we see our bodies with gratitude? Can we see our journey with love? When I was young, I laid in my childhood lawn and closed my eyes, and I remember feeling complete oneness with the universe and the stars. I felt like I could close my eyes and I could see the galaxy. I felt gratitude that I chose my parents and that I chose my life. I chose this body and this lifetime. I remember that around the age of 6 or 7. It's said often that you either choose your parents or your parents choose you. Does this concept have any resonance with your truth? And I know that that could be triggering dependent on your relationship with your parents. Some simple ways to support organic wisdom and embodiment within your body are touch. So experiencing safe touch, pets, massage, dancing, holding hands, hugs, and consensual conscious sex. Observing your senses, witnessing your bodily sensations with curiosity, being patient and attentive as the wisdom of your body is engaged. Breathing and breath work. I've talked a lot about this, but full belly breathing all the way into the diaphragm, fully filling your lungs and holding it with intention. There's a beautiful network of breathwork facilitators for guided breathing that also work over Zoom. I know some amazing ones. Self-love, place your hand over your heart. Just notice what happens. Music or creative movement, writing poetry, singing, dancing, humming, and listening to intentional music can unlock positive emotions. Somatic smile is about the intentionality of the smile, and the act of intentionally bringing that to your face promotes relaxation, and oxytocin in the body reduces blood pressure and softens pain. So here are some questions for your blueprint. What activities make you feel embodied? What is your relationship to pleasure, and what does pleasure mean to you? What part of you is most at the wheel, i.e., what part of you is typically the driver of your decisions? Is it your mind, body, or spirit, or are all of them in collaboration? I remember when I came home from a spiritual journey in which I essentially realized that much of my life, my mind was sort of dominating my body. And I made a commitment to my body to listen to it and to give it what it wanted. The next morning, I woke up and I wanted pancakes. I hadn't had pancakes or allowed myself to have pancakes for probably 5 years. I made myself pancakes and I put peanut butter on them and bananas and honey, and they were amazing. And my body was happy. And also, so much of our own limitations around what we can do are really just our own beliefs made manifest. So, thanks so much for tuning in. We're grateful that you're here, and we'll see you on part 7.
Thank you for choosing yourself. The work to return to yourself is some of the hardest work you can do. We believe everyone is intuitive, creative, and always connected to their own divine highest power. When we invest in ourselves and our consciousness, we are raising the frequency of humanity. What we do in the highest good of our souls, we do for the highest good of all. We've designed experiences for you to continue in your exploration of these topics, which are on a pay-what-you-can basis. Find customized meditations, journal prompts, rituals, and abundant resources at the link in our bio or theblueprintwithin.com.